Well, for Football Manager fans, your Christmas list has been published because, of course, I'm talking about the announcement that FM24 will be released on Monday, the 6th of November, with the early access beta around 2 weeks before as normal. But also with it, we got a features roadmap, which we'll be showing on screen at plenty of points during this episode. It's something a little bit different on the channel today. Most of the big creators, understandably so, are in a race to get the first instant reaction video out when these sorts of things are released, and I didn't really want to do that or try and compete with that. What we're going to do here is almost have a bit of a ramble, which we've done a few times on the podcast channel for football related matters, so I thought we'd do it over here too. We're going to run through the items on this features roadmap and talk about a couple of other things too, of course, because for the first time ever, we know a bit about FM25, which we wouldn't have normally known this far in advance. So if you're looking forward to that, then please do put a thumbs up on it. If you want to give your comments and your thoughts on what the features roadmap has in it, who you're looking forward to managing on FM24, whether you're going to get the game or not, what you're looking forward to in FM25, then let us know down in the comments. Let's make it an open, fun discussion. But for now, let's work through this features roadmap. Very quickly before that, we've got to talk about the FM25 scenario, because we knew in advance of this announcement and knowing that the new game was coming out, the FM25 is going to have the big match animation upgrade and quite possibly women's football as well. That stuff seems to be happening in the background, and it looks like it's going to be the biggest changes to the game for a long time. Of course, there seems to be a little bit of worry about the company that SI had linked with for FM25 financially, but we can't worry about that. It all looks good for now. And what we were promised for FM24 ahead of this announcement was hopefully the most polished game in the series, and that's all as a fan I'm really looking for. I don't care about the big fancy upgrades. I want the game to be polished and as realistic as possible, but while still having that little bit so people can buy it. And this features roadmap seems to be a good and maybe promising outline towards achieving that, because when this screenshot first appeared in the announcement video, I got very excited because the thing that seems to be prioritized is the thing that will make the most difference to my types of saves, which is maybe very selfish, but I think when we go through the Discord, the socials, the streams and whatever, the thing that's probably talked about most is not the match engine. It is communication, it's transfers, it's recruitment. It is that side of the game, because ultimately that's the difference between a playing football game and a management game, not the match engine. So when I saw that the first announcement here, which we're going to find out more about next week, was smarter transfer, squad building and finances, I got very excited, because we've even had it in our recent stream saves and in the Bristol City one where wage demands are a little iffy, where AI sides have been allowed to build older squads and then not got to sell on value and then not been able to replace their team. We've seen a lot of bizarre things, and the head coach has probably been the biggest example of that for us. So for those who don't know, the head coach is our annual mainstay save on this channel, where we have no say in transfer, staffing or contracts. And this year, we saw a whole array of problems, some of which we'd never seen before. And I'd certainly say in terms of recruitment and squad building and the way a director of football works, it's not been the best year for FM. We know last year the likes of recruitment focus came in, which is a really promising feature that kind of ended being wound back a little bit towards the end of the year because people had complained there weren't enough scout reports showing and things, when actually it was probably more of an issue in explaining how it worked rather than it being a problem itself. And by the January update, unfortunately, we ended up with a bit of a mix and match between things, and it led to a few problems. But this gives me real excitement, and I've said it many times before, and I'll say it again this year. If SI can nail that, and Football Manager 2024 is fairly smart for transfer, squad building and finance, I don't care about the rest. I'm happy with the game. As long as the rest of the game's the same and that improves, fair play. You've got my money. I'm happy. The second bit, though, gave me a little bit of interest, and we have seen a little bit in a blog post from Miles Jacobson to suggest what this is going to entail, because we saw information about the introduction of intermediaries and offloading players, something which many of you report as a problem, particularly offloading players in that balance between reputation and wage. There seems to be players who either aren't willing to understand their scenario, move on. Of course, there are some in real life, and the introduction of the Saudi League and the big finances this summer is going to make that really interesting in this year's game. But it is something that needed addressing, and to see the introduction of people who can work as the middleman, and hopefully, I don't know what it's going to entail, but if intermediaries includes people working for the club, rather than just player agents, which is something that we see in real life, then that could be a real addition in taking some of the burden away from the manager and almost making a head coach save more natural at some clubs. So that's something I'm really excited about. I guess mainly more for me because of what my main save is, but I do think it will have an impact in most of our saves. But ultimately, next week is a very exciting one and arguably a make or break one for how excited I'm going to be about this year's game. But when I saw they were the headline features, I had a very big smile. I can't lie about that. Let's move on to the second week of features, which also includes some things that have been much requested and some things that are going to be very exciting for a lot of people. Now, the first one actually went a little bit under the radar, but I'm quite excited about. We did a poll here when these features were announced, and this one got the lowest rating, but I'm not sure that that's fair, because individual player targets and interaction logic seems to be a real chance for morale and the effect it has in game to be improved. Now, of course, we know mentality and morale plays a huge part in football and the dressing room scenario. The way that it's produced in Football Manager is kind of robotic and manufactured at times, and there's not really a way to talk around that and show those player management skills that you might have. So if we could have better interaction logic, more open interaction, and player targets that do allow for player morale to be changed, then that could be a real step forward in terms of detail when it comes to the mentality of the team and dealing with those attributes that are hidden and you don't often see, but you know that they cause you a problem when a transfer window's coming up. So I felt that one went a little under the radar, but I'm quite excited about that too. The next one probably leads more towards FM25, and it is something that I have to be fair and say did improve in this year's game, because for years, you may remember, we all used to moan when players got to the byline and just shot every time instead of cutting it back, looking for the ball across the 6-yard box, looking to try and beat the keeper. We always saw the same thing, and this year that has improved. And I know there was initially a disaster with the cover duty in a centre-half position, but that's been fixed too. And if we can get more realism, then brilliant. We're ultimately going to see the big match engine changes in FM25 and the animations that come with it. But overall, it's a nice touch to have and something just to probably placate the people who say, I want match engine features, and they've got to have one in there. The next one, though, I think is going to be the one that is most exciting for a lot of people, because it's something that in the wider community has been called for a long time. I think we're all in agreement that the way set pieces work in the game are probably outdated and don't reflect the modern detail that go into them. So the introduction of set piece coaches and the refresh for it generally is going to make a real difference this year. There's always in the last 5 or 6 seem to be a flaw. This year, near or back post corners, you can score hundreds of goals with the right defenders or strikers. We've seen it with our 6'8" striker at Distillery, our 6'5" centre-half. We saw it in the Woking stream save with Rowan Ince in the National League every week. So to have that is going to make a big difference. And if we go back a few weeks to my mini feature request for FM24, quite a few of them were around set pieces. One of the things I talked about was short corners. You can't, in the current match engine and the current tactical setup, allow more than one player to go short for the corner, which means you never get a realistic setup. If you look at corners in real life now, a lot of teams do short corners. They always have 3 players out there, 2 with the taker, and then 1 or 2 outline around the edge of the box, which in FM, you cannot replicate. I'm also hoping it will allow for better game management, because one of the things I've called for years is that you can't go and time waste in the corner flag, and that is something I love to see in the game, because it happens so often in real life. To not be able to replicate it in Football Manager, it seems very strange. I like to see short time wasting corners towards the end of the game, all of those little bits, and I'm hoping that will make a big difference. Even if it's not fully fledged in its first year, and by FM25 it can build towards fun routines that we can make up. For now, just to have something that you can replicate real life with a bit more, and the things we're commonly used to seeing with them, I think that'd be a big step forward for a lot of people. So I'm really hoping we see that. So they're all the mainline features, but there are a couple of other little things to talk about. We're going to get more gameplay deep dives, which will be great at the start of October, and the usual features wrap-up video. But I wanted to have a very quick talk about FM24 Mobile, because of course I normally put out a video the day it's released, and we have plenty of fun with it. There's been a big change to that this year, because sales have been declining, and the game's probably not had the upgrades that the other editions have, and the introduction of touch and mobile in their current forms have probably reduced that player demand a little. So FM24, as you've probably seen, has now teamed up exclusively with Netflix Games, and will be their first one on the Netflix platform as a sports game. So for a few people who obviously used to buy it separately and enjoy it, it's going to be a bit of a problem. For Netflix subscribers, it's probably going to be great. And for those who play FM and have Netflix anyway, it's going to be the perfect scenario because you'll save yourself the £8 or whatever. So it's something that could go either way, but I think the reasons have been detailed for it and it makes sense. And if we're being honest, the main FM's great. A lot of people aren't going to worry about mobile, and the emergence of touch in its current form has made a big difference for that. So it was my only slight disappointment from the announcement, but I can kind of understand the reasons with it, which is why it's better not to do an instant reaction video like that. But what are you most excited about for FM24? Because there is no doubt when we did our poll last week that most of it was towards set pieces and smarter transfers. And again, if those two things are right, I don't think many people are going to complain. I'm really intrigued by the intermediaries and how that's going to factor in. I think it's going to make a big difference to interaction as well. So hopefully we're going to get a good game. We're going to get a polished game. For those of you who don't know, we're going to have daily videos over here as soon as the beta releases from 2 long-term stories, The Head Coach and one other to be confirmed. They'll both be out every day during the first 2 or 3 weeks while I'm off work, and they'll rotate each day after that. That, though, will be alongside my beta Twitch save, which, of course, as you can see from the badge there, I'm a Luton fan. Most of you regulars know it well. And we will be managing Luton Town in the Premier League. And that's what FM24 is for me. The Premier League Luton Town edition. I'm doing it on Twitch because I don't want any of you accusing me of cheating if we manage to win some games. But we are going to be Luton Town on Twitch. We're going to have great fun. And we're going to try and survive in the Premier League. I hope you're looking forward to all of that. If you haven't already, subscribe here. Follow me on Twitch. You can find the link at the top of the description to pre-order the game now from Fanatical, which helps support me. It's also cheaper than Steam prices and you get full access to the beta. So please check that out if you haven't pre-ordered the game yet. It does make a big difference to the channel. But that's my roundup of the FM24 features and how I'm feeling about it at the minute. I'm cautiously optimistic, to use an FM term. Let me know how you're feeling down in the comments. Are you excited for it and which features excite you the most? If you want to stay up to date with this channel, my save announcement will be coming soon for the One Club story. And please do subscribe and turn that notification bell on. In the meantime, daily videos from 2 long-term FM23 stories. They both continue every day at 3:30. And plenty more to come in the next few weeks as more gets announced for FM24. I'm looking forward to seeing you there for it. Thank you very much for joining me. And I'll see you back here tomorrow as the long-term stories resume.